Guys, my name is Desi Arnaz, and I am a professional investor. I have been for a long time. I'll talk about that in just a minute. Are you guys enjoying this summit? Tremendous. I'm really impressed. I get a chance to speak at a lot of places, but this has been one of the most fun. And meeting you guys has been a big part of that. So today I'm going to be talking with you guys about investing in mortgage-backed promissory notes. Do we have anyone in here that does that already? A few of you guys. Good. Well, the rest of you guys are about to have a treat. Let me tell you. It changed my life when I found out about mortgage-backed promissory notes. And I'm also going to show you how you can use these mortgage-backed promissory notes to create a financial legacy for your family that will last literally hundreds of years. And I know some of you, that's important, isn't it? Most of us invest, or some of us invest for more than just ourselves. We want to do it for our kids and our kids' kids. Can I see the hands of those of you that want to invest for your family too? And the rest of you don't like your kids? Is that what it is? They can fend for themselves. Forget about it. I got a couple like that. The program that I'm going to share with you, besides that incorporates this note investing, is called the Family Circle of Wealth, and it incorporates three components: the investment component, a legacy component, and then a legacy management component. I wrote a book on this, and it's on Amazon if you guys want to get it. Actually, I'll give it to you for free, but it's on Amazon, $20, and it tells you about that. As I said, I've been an investor a long time because I'm old. Today, I'm a senior fund manager for the Everly May Capital Group and the Everly May Real Estate Fund. The Everly May Capital Group is a $100 million fund, and what we do is we invest in mortgage-backed promissory notes, of course. We own them all over the country. And then we also invest in land development, and we take land that looks like this and turn it into land that looks like that. That's pretty cool, isn't it? Yeah, it's kind of fun. So that's what we do. Some of you don't know what a promissory note is, so I will take a second to just explain that. A promissory note basically is this. It's a written contract between two people that says, hey, I owe you money and I will pay you back. Nothing special about that. We've all signed them at one point or another if you've ever purchased a car or got a house, but there's two types, secured and unsecured. What do you suppose I recommend you invest in? Secured, of course. Makes a lot more sense to me. I like the ones that are secured by mortgages, because mortgages give me the ability to take the house if I don't get paid, and I like that. Not that I want to take someone's house, but if they don't pay me, sometimes they don't leave me an option. And here's why I like notes. Because notes are really difficult to lose money on. I had lunch today with a gentleman that was sitting next to me. He's been in the note business for more than a decade, and I made that comment. He said, they really are difficult to lose money on those things. I heard someone up here speaking earlier saying, you have to kind of factor in that risk, and I don't know, man. At 71, I'm just risk averse. I don't want to factor in risk. Notes, remove that. I'm going to show you something here that you're going to love. This is a house that I own the mortgage on right now. It's in Missouri. I call it my Missouri moneymaker. When I bought the note, the value of this house was $180,000. According to a local real estate agent. The homeowner owed $127,000 to the lender. So there's nothing special about this house in that sense. Their interest rate's 8%, and they had 15 years left to pay, and the payment's about $1,215 a month. Just a typical little Midwestern type house, right? But here's what was interesting. I was able to buy this note from the bank for $104,000. Now remember, the homeowner owes $127,000. Did you guys know that banks and financial institutions sell their notes? Have you ever had a situation where you purchase a house, you got a mortgage, and within a month or two you get a letter saying your loan's been transferred? That ever happen? Yeah, I might have bought it. They say transferred. What they did is they sold your mortgage. That's what happened. But you guys can buy them too. But here's how it looks for me. In this situation here, I have instant equity in that note, because if that person were to sell that house the very next day, I paid $104, they'd owe me how much? $127,000. So that's pretty sweet. I don't have to wait to get equity like you do in real estate. I have equity the day I buy the note. I like that. That's one of the things that I really like about it. And I'm going to go back here, I missed that. If you put those numbers into a financial calculator, you'll see that my yield on that note is 11.5%. Is that a good yield? Yeah, it is. It is. When I was younger, I always wanted to try to hit it out of the park all the time. A lot of people want to do that. That's not wise. But a lot of people are not wise, especially some of the younger ones, right? That's not wise. It's more wise. You know, the race is a slow and steady race. It's really about putting one foot in front of another and just making it happen. Don't worry about trying to get it out of the park. If you can get on base every single time at bat, how are you going to do? Quite well, right? Quite well. And that's all I'm talking about here. So when I buy a mortgage note, there's only one of three things that will happen every single time. And this is what they are. Either these people are going to pay me like they said they would. Maybe they'll pay me off early, like they refinance the house or sell the house. Or maybe they won't pay me. Can you think of anything else? I can't. That's it. So let's look at each of these three possible outcomes, guys, and I'll show you how I fare as an investor and why you might want to consider adding some of these into your portfolio. If they pay me like they're supposed to, the payment's $1,215 a month. They have 15 years left to pay. If I bought this inside my IRA balance would grow from 104 to 218,000 over the next 15 years, and that works, right? That works, doesn't hurt. That's that 11.5% yield that I talked about. Now, let's say though 5 years later, after I buy the note, they decide they want to get a new house. Maybe they had a couple children or whatever, and so they put the house up for sale. They've been making payments for 5 years, so their balance is no longer 127. But most of the payments on a mortgage, especially in the early years, is what? Interest. So even though they paid me for 5 years, they still owe me $100,000 on this particular note. They've already paid me $72,900, and they still owe me $100,000. So at the end of 5 years, I will have collected a total of $173,000 on this note when they pay me off. Is that good or bad? That's really good. And if you put that into your financial calculator, you're going to see that I've made a $69,000 profit in 5 years on this note, and the return for me is 13.5. My return actually got better. Why did it go up? Anybody know? Because I had a discount when I bought that note. Remember that? That $23,000? Yeah. So that's now in my pocket, and so that boosts my yield. But here's what made me nervous when I first found out about these a decade ago. What made me nervous was, what if they don't pay me? Has anybody thought about that today? How do you do that? How do you deal with that? Well, first of all, I do want to say this. It's easy to deal with it because you don't have to do it. There are people out there that do it. I like what Pace Morby said. There's people out there that do all this stuff. You don't have to do any of this stuff. But here's how it works. Let's just say 5 years into this deal, these people, they don't sell the house. Maybe they get a divorce, something happens, and they decide that what they're going to do is stop paying me. So at that point, I need to make a decision. What I typically do is I try and get them to pay me again, but if they won't, then I'll go ahead and hire an attorney and handle the foreclosure. But now, 5 years in, they've already paid me how much? They've already paid me almost $73,000, and now they stopped. So they are in something called default. And when a person goes into default in their mortgage, we already know what happens there, don't we? We know exactly what happens. I have the same rights as Bank of America in this situation, guys. I can foreclose on that property and take ownership of it. And once I own it, what can I do with it? I can. I could also rent out room by room. I just learned that today. I like that too, okay? That's another option. This is a great way to backdoor your way into properties for those of you that want properties. I have picked up commercial properties. I've picked up residential properties, condos. You can backdoor your way into real estate this way. If, in this case here, I could pick up this place for basically $104,000, right? And it was worth $180,000. You think I ever could have done that through the front door? Nah, wouldn't happen. So that's another benefit, but that's not the topic today. So if the people don't pay me, then my option is to foreclose, and let's say I do that. So we're 5 years out. I don't know what the value is after 5 years. Maybe they have Maybe the properties have gone up, maybe they've gone down, but let's just say the property value stayed the same for 5 years. So now I sell it for 180. I've already collected 72,900, but then I have to pay my attorney and my realtor to get this thing sold. So I spend about 14,000 bucks to do that. So at the end of the day, I make I collect a total of $238,900 net at the end of the day. How did I do? Pretty good, pretty good. So the worst case scenario that I was worried about actually works out to be pretty good. As a matter of fact, that's my yield. Once I saw this, I realized why banks don't flip houses. They're in the money business, and they get it, and it's passive. When I started doing this, because I used to flip a lot of houses from 1982 until 2019, and landlording too, and I didn't like being a landlord. I really didn't like being a landlord. But I love being a lean lord, as my partner calls it, a lean lord. Yeah, it works. There's 3 possible outcomes. They're all decent, in my opinion. Why wouldn't you want to do this? So I wanted to have as many of these as I possibly could. And I know that there's a learning curve to get into this. And for some people, there's no room in your life for another learning curve. And for those of you that are in that situation, I understand. What we can do is we can show you how you can invest with us in our products, right? In our projects, I should say. You can do that as private equity. You guys have been hearing a lot about private equity this week, haven't you? There's a lot. Our company, as I said, is called the Everly May Capital Group, and you can invest with us. But now, that leads me to my favorite topic, which is the family circle of wealth. The reason I wrote a book about this is because I actually implemented what I'm about to show you into my own family, and I've seen some amazing results as a result of this, okay? The family circle of wealth incorporates your investments in notes or real estate or whatever you choose to invest in. You just need an income-producing investment for this to work. It also incorporates a legacy, and then it incorporates also a legacy management system. And it's not new. There's wealthy families have been using what I'm about to show you guys for many, many years, more than 100 years. Families like the Rockefellers, Disney, the Kennedys, even Joe Biden uses it. I don't know if I should have said that one. Oh, well, it's out there now. Here's how it works, guys. Basically, you're going to be investing as you always do, but you're going to take the income that your investments produce, and you're going to put that income into a special purpose trust. And I'll talk about the trust in just a minute. And that special purpose trust is then going to use that income to buy life insurance policies on every family member that you have. I have more than 20 policies that I've put into place in my family. Now, what's one of the obvious benefits of buying a life insurance policy on every family member? The death benefit, right? You do it inside this trust, and every time someone passes away, $100,000, $200,000, maybe $1 million goes right into your family trust. I know it doesn't benefit you so much necessarily, but you're doing this, as I said earlier, for the next generations. And I'm going to show you how you can do this and create a family dynasty, and you'll be remembered by your family for hundreds and hundreds of years. It's a wonderful thing. But these policies are not traditional policies. For a long time, I didn't really believe in buying life insurance, and so I would always buy the cheapest policy I could, because as an investor, I felt instead of putting my money into some life insurance policy, I'll put my money into what? An investment. Made more sense to me, but I didn't understand that there's a way to engineer these policies so that you can actually take your money back out of the policy while you're still alive, and I didn't know that. And so I wasn't doing it until 3 years ago. And by the way, I don't sell life insurance or anything like that, so don't worry. It's not about that at all. I'm just sharing with you guys something that has really made a tremendous difference in my life. These policies accrue or build up something called cash value. Some of you guys have heard that term. I hadn't heard that term, right? So they build up cash value, but you can also turbocharge how fast the cash value gets built depending on how you engineer that policy. So that's what makes it really special. And as the cash value grows, you can tap into that cash value and put it right back into your investments. So it's not like your money's just sitting there doing nothing. And by the way, the cash value also earns while it's sitting. For example, mine right now is earning just under 6% while it sits until I put it to work someplace else. So it's not like sitting in a bank account earning zero. So to me, it all made sense. Now, in my family, we're not calling our family trust a family trust. We actually call it a family bank. And the reason that I do that is because the way I structure my trust is that my family members can borrow from it, but they have to pay it back. And they can pay it back with interest. And here's what I thought about when I made that decision. So I invest my money in notes, which I have a decent-sized mortgage note portfolio. It pays a lot of money off to me every month. As a matter of fact, it covers my entire lifestyle and beyond. But if a family member wants to buy a vehicle, for example, and they go to Wells Fargo to get the financing, and every month they make their payment to repay that note, car note, and interest, that money goes into Wells Fargo, doesn't it? Leaves my family forever. That doesn't benefit us. But on the other hand, if they borrow that money from our family bank and pay it back with interest, now our family bank has more money than it started with. The money is here for the next family member that wants it or needs it, or the same family member. Isn't that brilliant? To me, it just made so much sense. I thought, I need to do this for my family. So that's what I did. I funded it. And the other thing I want to mention to you, too, is some of you may be thinking, well, how am I supposed to pay for all these policies? Well, I mentioned part of the way you're going to pay for it is by using the income from your investment portfolio, but also as the cash value grows, if you took out the cash value from one policy, couldn't you use that money to buy a policy on another person? Now those policies are self-funding. And over time, not very much time, about 3 or 4 years is what I've experienced personally, you don't have to put a dime into this thing. And every person born, adopted, or married into your family can be covered with life insurance at no cost to them. Even your family members that you don't like, you can cover them. It's not costing you anything, and you'll be happy when they die anyway, right? So now you can get paid for it. All you got to do is ask them to let you make the decision about pulling the plug, right? So there's 3 ways that your family bank is going to accrue cash. 1 is, of course, insurance proceeds as people die. 2 is the cash value will build up in the policies. And I want to say this, too, about the cash value. It's not an if. The cash value will grow in those policies because it's contractual. The life insurance company has given you a written contract that says you will have cash value. In fact, they even give you a sheet that shows how much cash value you're going to have year after year after year. And then the 3rd source of income for your family bank is that person who wants to buy that car, right? That interest that they're paying. So your family bank is literally growing in wealth year after year after year, and generation after generation, guys. That's why I call it the family circle of wealth. But now we all know what people do with money when they inherit it, right? Family members. There's an old Scottish proverb that says, shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations. And what that means is, in generation 1, someone works hard, they roll up their sleeves, they go to work, and they create some wealth for the family. And then they give it to the next generation who didn't work for it, who didn't understand what it took to make it happen. So what do you suppose happens with that money during that generation? It gets wasted, right? It certainly doesn't make it to the 3rd generation. And that 3rd generation is back to rolling up the shirt sleeves again. But you can literally end that in your family. Now, my goal with my trust that I put together was not to make life easy for my kids. I just wanted to make it easier for the future generation. That's it. I don't want a bunch of spoiled trust fund babies, and I don't think any of you guys do either. And so this is not a living trust that we're going to talk about. I think I'll talk about the trust now because you can use the trust to manage this whole process. This is not a living trust. A living trust is basically used to transfer your stuff to the next generation. And a lot of us have those, and I've had those for years. I've had one for years in my own family. But it's not a very good multi-generational transfer tool because of certain laws that exist. There's only a few states, a handful of states where you can actually have this type of trust. It's called a dynasty trust. A dynasty trust, like my dynasty trust, for example, lasts for 360 years. That's a long time. And it's not used to transfer your stuff. It's used to transfer your values. It's used to transfer your investments. And it's used to be sort of a roadmap for your family so that in the future, they know how you wanted things done. And so you're going to develop the trust. And by the way, I'm not an attorney and I don't do these trusts either. So there's nothing in it for me to share this with you except to say this will be life-changing for you and your future generations if you do pursue this. So with the dynasty trust, I consider it kind of like a GPS, or even better yet, I like the wealth management instruction manual that I'm leaving for the folks that are behind me. You guys have put a lot of time and energy into learning and into building this investment business that you have. But you probably have noticed that not many of your family members really have that much interest in following in your footsteps. Is that true? Yeah. They don't want that. What do they want from you when you go? That's all. They don't want your advice. They don't want your opinion. They don't want anything except your money or your house. I used to own a real estate company, a Century 21 franchise, and I would see when people would pass on, they'd leave the house to the kids. You know the first thing the kids do when they get that house? Yeah. They call a real estate agent and say, will you sell this thing? So don't worry about leaving them that. You leave them this, and then you sell the house and take that money and just spend the rest of your life spending your money on yourself. In my family trust, I set it up so that our trust will be using all its funds to do private lending. Do we have any converts in here today that understand private lending is a great market to be in, a great business? I think it's fabulous. Yeah. And I like it because the demand for the product is always going to be there. What's the product in private lending? Money. Is there ever going to be a shortage of demand for money? Never. So I set ours up so that our trust can only lend money on real estate related assets where they get collateral. Because I like collateral. As you guys saw in option 3, when they don't pay and there's collateral, you actually do well. And so our trust is set up that way. And it works, and they can't change that. Even for 360 years, they can't change that. And I have other things in there. I put other things in my family trust. Since I'm a Christian, I put in my family trust that anyone that wants to put their children into a Christian school, the trust will pay for that education. You can do whatever you want to do with these trusts. As I said, you get to pass your values on too. Okay? You can't do that with other types of trusts and other instruments. I also set up a family council to mediate 5 adults, 30 years or older, within the family, right? I've got 4 children, so I call each of those a tribe. Right? You heard the tribe of Israel, this is the tribe of Desi. Okay? So each tribe has a representative, and then we have a professional, like a lawyer. That's how I have it set up, okay? But you can do whatever you want to do. That's my point. When you set up your dynasty trust, it's not about who's going to get your car, who's going to get your house. It's really about what am I going to leave for you guys? And here's what I want you to think about. As you go through this process, as people start to die, how much money is going to be in your family trust after 1 generation? Most of the policies that I purchase are about $100,000 when they're children, and I buy like $200,000 on adults. And these policies, they grow in death benefit year after year after year. For example, my 6-year-old granddaughter, her policy cost me $450 a year. She got like $98,000 in coverage now. If she lives to be 80 years old and dies, there's going to be more than $1 million paid into the family trust. And it cost me $450 a year. Why wouldn't I do that, right? Especially since it self-funds. You set it up, you get it going, and it goes. So anyway, that's what I wanted to share with you guys on that. I call it the family circle of wealth because, as you can see, your family can become one of the wealthiest families in the country, amongst the wealthiest families in the country, even despite the fact that you didn't like a lot of them. Okay, yeah, it's a good product, right? I think it's a good program. You will be the difference maker. You know, I read somewhere that Most people are forgotten by their family less than 100 years after they die. It's kind of sad, but it's true. I thought about my own family, you know. I don't know. Most of them I don't know. But if you set this up, you'll be the difference maker in your family. You think you'll be forgotten? No, it ain't going to happen. They're going to remember who you are. And these trusts last 360 years, so they're going to know who you are, guys. It's huge. As I said, I wrote a book. It's on Amazon, The Family Circle of Wealth. Doesn't matter what investment vehicle you decide to use. It just needs to produce cash flow to start the engine. Now, you can also start the engine just by writing a check, which is what I did. I agreed to write a $50,000 a year check until this thing becomes self-funding. So I wrote a check for 50 grand, and the way we structured these policies, or the way my agent structures these policies, I was able to take out $45,000 of that, $45,000 out of that policy 30 days after I wrote the check for 50 grand. That's how they're structured. That's why wealthy families have been doing this. The rest of us just didn't know. And you don't know what you don't know, right? So guys, I hope you guys will be investing in mortgage-backed promissory notes. You saw the value of those, but then I also hope that you guys will be motivated to do something really special for your family. What I found is that it's brought my family closer together. My at the time he was 43-year-old son came up and kissed me on the cheek. Never done that before. I said, you do it again, I'm going to hurt you. But it literally has brought my family closer together. We now have a dynasty day once a year where we all get together and we bring in some of the family members from outside the state. It's brought us closer together. It's a bonding thing. And if that's important to you guys, then I've just given you really, to me, Willy Wonka's golden ticket. Literally. And you don't have to take advantage of it, but I've just given it to you guys. So our booth is out there. We are the Everly May Capital Group. We have a booth right here at the end of the session there, at the end of the hall. And for those of you that want my book, you don't have to buy it. If you will just scan that QR code, I'll mail it to you. You just have to, I'm sorry, not scan it. Just scanning the QR code, I think, gets you on a phone call with me. Here's what you want to do. There's my phone number. If you'll send me your name, you can scan the QR code if you want to get on an appointment with me, and we can talk. I can even show you my trust. And I can show you my investment portfolio for notes, too. I don't have a problem with that. But my phone number is there. If you want me to mail you this thing, the book, just text me. Text me your name and your address, and I'll send you out a book next week. They were supposed to be here today, but yesterday, Amazon told me, good news, your order will be shipped and it will arrive on Monday. Okay, Amazon, thank you very much. Guys, you can be the hero in your family, and if you don't do it, who will? It won't happen. You know that. Your family will go year after year after year, generation after generation, struggling, everybody out there on their own. This is going to bring them closer together. You'll be remembered, and they'll have a little easier way in life. And by the way, if you want to spoil the heck out of your children with this, you don't have to do what I did. You can just give them money, right? Every year or whatever you want. I don't. I lend them money. Yeah. I'm not giving my kids anything, right? Yeah. So thank you all very much. I hope you all like this.
Desi Arnaz, thank you.
All right.